Live, we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck.
Hey everybody, I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you're on the lifeboat. How are you? Glad that you're all here. Looking through and seeing the names. Looks like the gang is present and accounted for. You know what, people? Human nature being what it is, it's a lot of fun to say I told you so. I mean, even if you're not trying to be a jerk, anytime something that you talk about that has any kind of prescience, you know what I mean, where it's almost like you see the writing on the wall, you know what I mean? Like if you told somebody a few days ago, hey, you might want a short Disney stock, I bet it's about to drop. That's the kind of thing that makes you feel like, hey, you're a little ahead of the curve, you know, and that kind of thing. Again, it's just human nature, but there's something nice about saying, I told you so. There's something nice about saying, you know what, I saw that one coming. Because it makes you feel like, you know, maybe you're a little bit smarter than the average bear. This is going to be one of those situations where it's not fun in any way, shape, or form to say, I told you so. But we're going to be saying, I told you so anyway. We're not going to be taking a whole lot of pleasure in it, but we're going to be saying it in hopes that maybe as we beat this drum a couple of more times, people might listen. And maybe the word will spread a little quicker because it's climbing its way into the national media. Take a look at this. All righty. Well, people, Mark is queuing up a video that, sorry, a little lemon lime beverage. But Mark is queuing up a video here that is, well, it pertains directly to what it is that that we're talking about. This is really, you know, the crux of what we're talking about. Perfect. Okay. All right. As it turns out, we're having a bit of a trouble in the technical department. People, if you've been watching the news, then you may have seen some clips of film out there. They're talking about a new street drug, and they're calling it Frankenstein, right? And if you know what Frankenstein was, right? Frankenstein was a monster that was put together from all kinds of different parts. And, you know, they stitch an arm here, a leg there, get a brain from somewhere else. And they assembled this monster. Well, right now in the drug community, there are people doing the exact same thing. And unfortunately, the drug is now really being prepared in such a way to kill as many people as possible. And there's no getting around that, people. There isn't. If you look at how this drug is being marketed, this is nitazines, right? I even said they're going to give it a cool nickname. Remember when we did the show? I said, you watch, it'll have a cool nickname. They'll be calling it something, because they're certainly not going to be, trying to pass it off as anything else, because my understanding is it's real obvious when you do this drug that you're not on one of the normal opiates. There are some side effects to this that are very different than your normal street opiate. Primarily, that big thing is going to be, the biggest difference is going to be the amount of euphoria that this drug creates. And we've talked in the past about how alpha fentanyl, which is what all of these fentanyl derivatives that are being sold on the street today are imitating, because alpha fentanyl is not, as we said last night, what you get in a patch and what is made in a laboratory is not what they're selling on the streets. They're selling analogs. They're selling things that are 1 molecule off or 2 molecules off, or a little bit here, a little bit there, so that they can get around the BS laws that got passed that were just enough to calm down all of those parents that lost kids. It wasn't an aggressive way to stop all of these, drugs from getting into the country. The aggressive way to do it would have been to say anything coming in, right, that is an unregistered opiate is an issue. That's not what they did. What they did was they picked a couple of different variants of alpha fentanyl and said, well, these can't be brought into this country, and neither can ingredients to make those. Now, you know damn well that all they're going to do is start twisting out a little bit, and, a little designer drug here, a little designer drug there. It's the same thing happened back when ecstasy was legal in a few states, right? There's a period of time where you could buy ecstasy legal in the United States. Didn't last very long, but it was the methyl dioxymethamphetamine, MDMA. So they went to court. They passed a law that said MDMA is no longer legal. And the people that were selling it were waiting for them to sign the bill. They had a 2-week or a 2-month, I can't remember, grace period where they were selling off the last of the stash, right? And then it was going to be illegal. And back then, you could buy it in General Nutrition Center. You could literally buy it in GNC. But once it was illegal, 2 days later, there was a drug out called Adam and Eve. And it was just slightly different than ecstasy. And what it boiled down to is you have to take twice as much of it, but it was the exact same thing. And then they went to something called Scoop. And this went on for about 4 years until they went, no methyl-based drug will ever be sold legally in the state without a prescription. Damn, right? Now, you're going to say we didn't learn from that? They could be doing the exact same thing right now with any derivative at all of alpha fentanyl. Any analog, it would have been simple as hell. Now, why they didn't do it, I'm not going to speculate on that. But you're going to have a hard time making me believe that since they've gone through this show 4 or 5 other times, right? The same thing happened with gamma hydroxybutyrate. When GHB became illegal, people started making, all of these designer versions of that, like furanone dihydro, which was basically the same damn thing. And then eventually they will pass a law that says any of these things, any of the precursors to these things, any, variation of these things, all of a sudden, become illegal. But right now, go ahead. Sure, fire it up right now. Let's get this video so that we can give you an idea of what I'm talking about, people. Sure.
Yeah, guys,
All right.
I'm gonna transition to this little article here real quick, guys. It's only like, I don't know, Tom, what is it, about a minute maybe?
It's short.
Yeah, so we'll watch this, and I may stop it a couple times just to avoid any kind of copyright, because sometimes that happens, but it shouldn't on this case. So, but anyway, let me do that right quick, and let's do it. Okay, I'm gonna transition over, man, and they may not be able to hear. They should be able to hear you, but
okay, good.
We'll just do it this way.
Right, these are actually called nitazines, and the street name is actually Frankenstein, a little easier to pronounce and also explain. WCPO 9 News reporter Courtney Francisco is live in Butler County after speaking to those who work closely with those who use these opioids. Courtney, we really want to get this information out to parents tonight as we head into the weekend.
That's right, because we learned those most at risk are those recreational drug users who are experimenting with, say, cocaine at a party or taking Adderall from a friend. If it's laced with this Frankenstein stuff, pharmacists say it could take a lot more Narcan for paramedics to revive you.
Let me just stop it there just for a second. It's a good place to stop it, don't you think, Tommy?
Yeah.
I think that they're talking about lacing all drugs with this, guys. Not just one drug. So.
Well, and it is something that, yeah, I'll touch on that
Yeah.
when we're done. But yeah, you're right. That was a great place to stop.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we don't,
I got you. I got you.
One box of the nasal spray called Narcan that revives someone overdosing might not be enough for the new opioid on the street called Frankenstein.
I always have Narcan, a ton of Narcan.
Nurse Daryl Hams is in Butler County working directly with people who use this type of drug.
It's a tranquilizer, so it like dopes you out. So Frankenstein is a good name. The night before they, use the opiate the night before, and they can't open their eyes still by 11 a.m. the next day. Like it's zombifying.
Pharmacists.
Yeah, one more time, we'll stop it. That's a perfect name for it, isn't it, Tommy? I mean,
Well, I mean, if you think about how this is getting put together, and I'll touch on some of that here in a little bit, people, and give you a bit of a better explanation of all of this here very shortly.
Yep.
Say
Perfect.
it's a nitazine, up to 20 times more potent than the fentanyl that county coroners say is plaguing our region with deaths.
A lot of folks report they like it. Some people report, a more intense high. So when you kind of ask folks, but why fentanyl? They're kind of like, why wouldn't I? It's cheap and it's really good.
In Southwest Ohio, Butler County has had the most submissions of drugs containing nitazines, according to the Bureau of Criminal Investigators, with 14 to 19 cases. Ham says parents should tell their teens and college students tonight drugs that look like cocaine, Adderall, Percocets could be laced with this and fentanyl.
Like Russian roulette, like super dangerous. Like it's a whole different landscape. I've been doing this multiple countries for 30 years.
I'm going to stop it one more time, and then we'll go to the end of the video. Why don't you guys pay attention to the stat at the end of this, okay?
It's not the same as it used to be. Like it's not kids having fun. It's not like doing a little drug on the weekend to kick back. It's life and death. And I don't want to sound like an old dude, but it's like, don't do it. It's just too dangerous.
And Ham said college students and teenagers should carry this with them. You can get it at a pharmacist or your local health department. It comes with 2 nasal sprays in one box. But remember, if this is the Frankenstein stuff, then it could take more than 2 nasal sprays to revive you. Reporting live in Butler County, Courtney Francisco, WCPO 9 News.
All right, Courtney, thank you.
Okay, guys, one second there, Tommy. The intro played again. Sorry.
Okay.
It's just a 10-second thing.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. There you go. You're back.
All right, people. So let me explain a couple of things here real quick. Number one, when you comment on something that has already been put up into the public space, then the copyright thing isn't so much of an issue. So the reason we were stopping that along the way is just to cover our assets here at the Lifeboat, to make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to bum anybody out. Right. So that's kind of key.
It falls under the fair use thing, just so you guys know.
Correct. And there's going to be so much misinformation about phytonitazines in the next couple of months that it is terrifying. Now, this Frankenstein that they're talking about isn't just nitazines. It's the reason it's being called Frankenstein. It's also the reason that it's taken people out really quickly. How many times on here have we said, whatever you do, don't mix benzodiazepines and opiates, right? That is the fast track to the other side of the veil, right? If you mix 2 respiratory depressants at the same time, you're really in very serious danger of just stopping your breath, right? All of a sudden, you don't get that feeling that everybody gets. And the next thing you know, it's all over, right? It's one of the reasons, when they talk about overdoses on opiates, and especially on opiates mixed with other substances like alcohol or any other respiratory depressants like benzos, or the combo of the three. But whenever they're talking about that kind of overdose, people, your heart doesn't explode. It's nothing like that. You go to sleep and you don't wake up, right? And very often, we've said this on the show before, a guy will die in the room with 30 people in the room, because the difference between somebody who does this one and nods out, and the difference between that and someone who overdoses is who's sitting next to him, who can hear their respirations, because there's no thrashing, there's no, all of the things that you normally see in movies, for the most part, don't happen. From time to time, someone will bite down on their tongue. That does happen from time to time, but for the most part, you can't tell until that person is blue, right? So, which is terrifying. You always think of the person overdosing alone. Very often he's in a room full of people, or she is in a room full of people. But this particular drug, street name Frankenstein, is called that because they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink in it. It has already been found, cut into numerous different drugs, but more importantly, it has been found stamped with pills on it that say things like Xanax. They look like Xanny bars, or they look like Valium, or they look like Adderall. I mean, they're putting this stuff into things that normally, you take an Adderall, you're expecting to stay up for a couple of days. But if you paid attention to what they were saying in that little thing that we just ran, they referred to this as a tranquilizer, right? It's not a tranquilizer by any stretch. However, there's probably tranquilizer in it, right? They probably got, they're lacing this with benzos, and they're lacing it with nitazines. Now, nitazines are about 5 times the strength of the street version, right, of fentanyl, the stuff that's going around right now. It is not necessarily 5 times the strength of alpha fentanyl, which is a very, very pure form of it, but given in such small doses that, believe it or not, that is the much safer version, because of the fact that it's done in a lab. And when they give you this in a patch, it's being bled out into you over a 72-hour period of time, and they've got it really, really engineered. But the stuff that's on the street right now, this is actually 5 times that strength. Now, why isn't this being sold in a powder? I mean, truthfully, right? It's the cheapest way you could possibly do it. Bring that stuff across and sell it in a powder. But this is really what it boils down to. And this is my humble opinion. People take it or leave it. But I was a needle IV drug user for a long period of time. And I'll tell you what, I got jumpy when somebody pulled out a powder that I didn't know. I mean, seriously, if they said, oh, you got to try this and it's in powder form, I'm not real apt to start, injecting things that I'm really unfamiliar with, because that's a terrible way to try a substance. Even smoking stuff. Things that were in powder that you can't identify and that you don't know what it is tends to make people nervous. But if it comes across the border and it says Percocet 30 on it, now obviously it doesn't literally say that, but it's got the numbers and it has the right appearance and it looks like a Perc 30, or it says OC 10, then all of a sudden people feel at home. They're putting this in. Now, I'll tell you what, by what the ingredients to these things are, no one's gonna, the first time they take it, they're going to know that they did not take a Percocet 30. They're going to know they didn't take an OxyContin 10, right? Or a Valium or a Xanax bar or anything else. They're going to know straight away that they took something very, very different. By then, the people marketing this figure, they're either going to love it or it's going to kill them, truthfully. And the one thing that I will really agree with what these people just said is this. The people that really need to be, that are in the most danger, it isn't the daily drug user, right? It probably the people that really need to worry about this are those people who occasionally go out of parties and eat a Loratab or eat a Xanax bar, and they do it every once in a while and have a couple of beers. And, you get one of these pills where you have a very, very, very strong opiate mixed with a benzodiazepine, and you throw 3 or 4 beers on it. People, you have heard the mathematical equation on this show. I've said it so many times, you're sick of hearing it. But 1 + 1 = 3. So if you take 1 Xanax bar, add 1 ounce of alcohol to it, you triple the strength of the drug. Okay, so picture the fact that you got a drug 5 times stronger than fentanyl and maybe a couple of milligrams of Xanax. And then on top of that, a person's putting 4 or 5 beers. I said this months ago, right? We came on here, we did a show on nitazines, and Mark and I banged the drum as loud as we could. And we said, you're going to start seeing overdoses of this stuff, and it's going to start happening soon. I'm not happy that we were right, I assure you, but we were. And I'm telling you right now, people, it's about to get ugly. We're not seeing even the beginnings of this, because this is a cheap product. And the appeal of phytonitazines is not the fact that it's 5 times stronger than fentanyl. It's the fact that it doesn't require a lab to crank this stuff out. This is to opiates, right, what crystal meth is to amphetamines. A guy that with a failed chemistry class, if he gets the right recipe, can mix this crap together. You don't need, vacuum tubes, and you don't need all of the different things that are essential to make certain drugs. Fentanyl is not an easy drug to make. I mean, it's not rocket science, but it's not something a guy's going to do in his garage. Phytonitazines is a very, very easy opiate to crank out. I mean, a brutally easy opiate to crank out. And when they start mixing this stuff with, every benzo and every other drug they can get their hands on, you got to ask yourself logically, I mean, are they trying to kill people?
Yeah.
I have beat this drum before. We're talking about 18 to 45 military age people in our country. The number one cause of death has been drug overdoses. And you know what? That was heroin and that was fentanyl. And now we're going to crank it up 5 times worse. And if that's not enough, we're going to mix in some benzos. You really got to wonder whether or not this is designed to kill people. If it's not, go ahead.
I just want to add there too, guys, this thing doesn't have a face. Okay? And what I mean by that is when they're lacing these other drugs with it, nobody knows it. It doesn't have a face. It's really dangerous. And people that don't understand how they do this stuff in the back rooms and doing all these other things that they do when they make their drugs, they get pill presses. If you throw that into a pill press and pull it down, you can't see it. It's not there. You don't see it. And they're cutting every drug out there with it. So I just wanted to put that out there. But anyway.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And you get a pill press in whatever size, shape, and indentation that you want. You mix in a little, believe it or not, polyvinyl chloride, right? PVC as a bonding agent. You squeeze that thing down and you have a pill that you're not going to be able to distinguish a real from a fake. Plain and simple. So you really got to question. And if this is not designed to kill us, well, then they're really stupid, because it's killing us. And it's going to get a whole lot worse, because 2 things are going to happen. Drug users who are not regular drug abusers, people without very serious habits, are going to get taken off the planet in many instances the first time they do this stuff. And more often than not, when someone goes, oh, hell, I'll give it a try, right? Yeah, I'll try it. That's usually after 5 or 6 beers, right? It's usually after a few shots. You're at a party, you've had some stuff to drink, and someone offers you something. You're starting off multiplying whatever you're about to take by what? 12? Right? 1 + 1 = 3. You got 5 beers in you. This is a recipe for disaster. And those people who are brand new to this, who are going to be taken off the planet, that's the first round of tragedy in this. The second round of tragedy are going to be the people who are already addicted, who go, hell yeah, right? As the guy in the interview said, if you're into a buzz, this is really going to be something that people that are really trying to dull emotions, people who are really trying to avoid reality. And we all know that as addicts, that the desire is to make all of the problems seem as if they go away. Boy, what a cocktail for that. This is going to create a type of addiction, people, that I don't know that we've seen. I mean, really, heroin addiction is brutal, but I've never experienced anything 7 to 10 times stronger than heroin. They're going to be addicted to that with a little bit of a benzo kicker. I mean, if somebody takes this stuff for 6 or 7 months and they're doing it every day, it's not just a matter of the withdrawal being brutal. The withdrawal will kill you. right? They're going to be taking a ton of benzos at the same time as they're taking a ton of opiates. A benzo withdrawal, cold turkey, if you're taking enough of it, will take you off the planet. This is really decimating 18 to 45-year-old men and women in this country. Now, you know where this stuff is coming from. There's nobody here stupid. We know exactly where this stuff is coming from. And if I say where it's coming from, we're not going to get this video pushed very far. And
we'll just say Southeast Asia. How about that?
And they most assuredly are not going to, to be very happy at the big red button. But let's just say, from the people who bring you everything else we buy in this country, this is a product that they're bringing to us via our southern border. Now, the last time I went off on a rant and spent a good hour screaming, it was about the number 42. And I don't mean the answer to everything in the universe, right? For those of you who are fans of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I'm not referring to that. I was referring to the program that we had that kept people who may be infected with the C+ math from coming into this country. Now, they intend to lift that, right? And when they do, they're estimating that we're going to get an influx of about 18,000 people a day coming across the southwest border. 18,000 a day. Now, how many of those are going to be smuggling nits? Who knows? But see, back in the day, people, if you wanted to smuggle in dope, you had to smuggle in quite a bit of it. But when you're talking about a substance with this kind of purity, each individual, if they were just secreting this stuff, say, inside the body, it doesn't take a lot of people to bring over a death sentence for tens of thousands of people. You hear the statistics. If you think I'm lying, Google them. But there was a bust within the last month. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. They love a good sensationalized story, right? So anything that they say, I like to divide by 4, right? Because they tend to, I remember back in the day when I was living a terrible lifestyle, and they would say, so-and-so got busted with this much cocaine that had a street value of, and I always used to think to myself, what street is that, right? Where do you have people paying that kind of, but anyway, there was a recent bust that they said was enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the US. Google it. See if I'm lying. So again, divide it by 4. If they busted in one drug bust enough of this crap to kill a quarter of America, what's going on? I mean, seriously, what is going on? Last night we had go ahead.
So you might not be able to see it. Mark Webb says, I believe that this thing is going on is all designed to take out the military age people who would be fighting against the country around the world. Tommy. Yeah, you guys, I know you guys hear me laughing there, but that's exactly what me and Tommy's been talking about.
Well played, Mark. I mean, if other people aren't seeing this, it's making me wonder why. Right? Let's look at this from a very logical standpoint. Where is the vested interest in killing your customer base? If this is about making cash, and that's all that this is about, where is the desire to kill off your customer base? The rate at which these people are dying has got to be putting a dent in the amount of money they're making. I'm not being funny. I mean, when you got, we talk about the number 1 cause of death in America between the ages of 18 and 45. Yet we know damn straight, right, how few, according to the statistics, what a small percent of the population is actually abusing these drugs. And it's a huge number of people, but it's not 50% of the country. But you know how many deaths there has to be to up the death limit? I mean, the statistics to where this is the number 1 cause of death. You believe that 300 number daily? I believed it when I said it, right? Because they were claiming way less than that. And we said it's 300. Well, now they're saying 296. If they're admitting 296, the number of people that this is killing, when the numbers really start to come out, people, it's going to be terrifying. It's going to be terrifying.
Keep this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, no.
Keep this in mind too, guys. Whether or not the article that we're talking about it's pretty much already gone anyway. But even before that, we had sections in our south at our gate. I'll just put it to you that way. That 200 miles wide that they could not police. Wrap that around your dome for a second. And now you want to just take it all away? What's going to happen then? I mean, it's crazy. It is so nuts. That was one of the things that shocked me the most. And I think Tommy will probably talk about this again here in a little while too. The first story me and Tommy seen about it was written 2 years ago. Put that in your pipe and smoke it for a second. You know what I mean? I mean, what does that make you feel like? You know?
And those were the first overdoses from phytonitazines. The first bust took place in Salt Lake City in 2016. So to say that this hasn't been on the radar, and the other thing, people, is, you know, and again, right here, the seventh son, you're a beast. But we're at a place right now in this country where the people in office, I'm not going to debate why, I'm not going to get into any of that, but from a logical standpoint, right, you find out that the number one cause of death in your country from 18 to 45 is drug overdoses. And then you cut the number of people working border security on the southwest border. And then you get rid of a law that has been keeping people out and basically open the floodgates to 18,000 people a day coming in to bring this poison. The first year ever that there were more fentanyl by weight busted at the border than there was heroin, and you cut down on the force that is trying to stop it from coming in. Is there any logic in that, people? Is there any logic in that? Now, we're just a bunch of dolts, right? We're just a bunch of dumb drug addicts, but you can sit here and do this one. No, that doesn't make any sense at all. In fact, that's frightening. And it makes you go, what the hell is that about? You got to be an idiot not to. I'm sorry. And for the people in elected office who have a team of people to give them the statistics that they're not releasing. And people, these statistics used to come out every 30 days. What, the computers are broken now? No, they don't want us to know how ugly it is. They don't want us to know how bad it is. And I'll tell you something, we've been beating the drum for a long time. The fact that they're starting to beat the drum means this is awful. For real, because they don't want to do this. They, especially coming up on a midterm, they don't want this story out.
Guys,
and I'm talking both parties. I'm not hacking on anyone right now.
Exactly.
I'm hacking on everybody.
And I think that something that needs to be pointed out here too, when you see, and I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, I really don't. Honestly, I could care less. But when you see each individual party that is either pushing one thing or another, they start fighting with themselves. That should be ringing bells all over the place, because you know that's what's happening right now. They're half of the party that's in charge right now doesn't want this to happen, but it's going to get pushed through anyway. It already is. You know, and they need to reverse it or make some new stuff there. But I just wanted to point that out, because when they're fighting amongst themselves, I mean, how can we ever get a leg up, man? I mean,
right.
I just don't get it.
And there was a question in the comment section just a minute ago about whether or not fentanyl, the original alpha fentanyl, was designed for surgery. Truth be told, when you ladies get an epidural for pregnancy, the most potent active ingredient in that epidural is fentanyl. And that is really what the most common use for it was for a long period of time. And then you have to realize that there are people on this planet who are going to be on opiates their entire life. Doesn't make them bad people. It makes them in a lot of pain. And I've always said, my war isn't with drugs, right? My war is with addiction. Now, when they start making it so that you can get stuff that will kill you, now I'm starting to get a little PO'd about the whole drug thing. But fentanyl is an excellent drug. Alpha fentanyl is an excellent drug. And for what it is designed for, let's say you're in hospice, you're someone who is dying of cancer. And I promise you, you get to a point where an OxyContin 80 is doing nothing. There has to be something stronger. And for those people who abused opiates for long periods of time, you may have seen an Oxy 160, you may have seen an Oxy 240. Those usually come out of hospice, right? Or a fentanyl lollipop, right? These don't come into the streets any other way but hospice. And it's designed to help someone in their last days on this planet so that they're not in so much pain, suffering their last days. So it has a great purpose. It really does. The trouble becomes when a country that absolutely hates us starts cranking out a street version of it and making it so strong. Again, people, they don't need to make it that strong. They got a lab, right? Why not back it off? Why not make it a little bit weaker? You're going to make more money. You're going to kill off less of your customer base, and you can still make it cheaper than they got to grow it in Navarrete, Mexico, if they're bringing in heroin, or bring it over from Afghanistan or any other place that they're, smuggling in heroin. It's still a way cheaper bet. Why are they making it strong enough to kill everybody off? I'm going to go with Mark. Now, I like Mark's answer because it makes a hell of a lot of sense. It really does. And if you do a little more research, there's this whole conflict going on right now in another part of the world, right? You're familiar with that. And our former friends from the USSR, right? Do a little research on nitazines and on fentanyl. And you're going to see a tie-in with them and our other red friends. You're going to tell me these people aren't doing this as a way to undermine our country. With all due respect, if you believe that, you should get a tack hammer, whack yourself in the head with it a few times, because it ain't going to make you any dumber. Honestly, just go from a business standpoint. Got a great vested interest in killing off as many of our customers as we can. Not logical, people. Not logical. And they know where they're hitting. They're hitting 18 to 45. They're going to destroy this country from within. They don't need to fire a shot. But when the time comes that they do, there's not going to be anybody left to defend. For real, this is where we're going. It's ugly. And I promise you, the guy living in the big white house and all of those people that are up on Capitol Hill, they're not doing squat, people. So we got to take the bull by the horns. And the way you do that is make sure that there's nobody 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, anywhere like that in your life that hasn't heard about this until they go, Uncle, whatever, stop it. I get the picture, right? Beat this to death. Don't stop yelling. Don't stop talking about it. Every time you see them, hey, how's school? You know about this nitazine crap, right? Don't eat a pill from anybody. You don't know what you're getting. Just because it says something on it doesn't mean it came from a lab. It probably came from our friends in Southeast Asia, right? That's the only thing that you can do right now. And what Steve has done, write letters, bang the drum, right? And the best thing about doing that, people, is that as this story gains traction, you gain credibility. You were ahead of the curve. There's nothing nice about saying, I told you so on this one. But there is something to be said for why the hell haven't you been listening to me from Jump Street? Because that actually has a little traction. It really does. But you know something? It's going to be people like us saving kids from this. That's our only hope at this point. Seriously. I mean, people, they're the hypocrisy, right? Just look at this 42 stuff. Well, you know what? We can't have you on an airplane if you got to follow the science. But come on in with whatever you want. Come on in. As you all know, I buy and sell watches. It's what I do these days. And I bought some watches at auction from another country that took 60 days to get to my house. If I had been buying fentanyl, it would have been in my house in 4 days with a lot less hassle at customs. No joke. That's where we're at. And it really has to make you take a step back and go, what the hell? Like, how is this even possible? But that's where we're at, people. So I'll tell you something, and I've said this from the very first day. When politics and drug addiction bump into each other, then there's no getting around it, because this is what my life is dedicated to. This is what Mark's life is dedicated to. So when the two of them intersect, I hate to be that guy, but in the next upcoming election, Like, this fool's got to go. I don't care if you vote for the other party, but this fool has got to go. They're doing nothing about this drug, nothing. And right now, I don't care which side of the aisle you're on, the most valuable natural resource in our country isn't oil. It isn't natural gas, right? It's kids. It's the next generation of people that are going to lead this country. And those who aren't dying are getting enslaved to a substance. People, it took me 3 decades to get off that crap. And this stuff's 5 times stronger. I'm sorry. This stuff's 5 times stronger than the stuff that was 10 times stronger than what I was doing. I can't wrap my dome around that. Mark, you were addicted to opiates. Can you wrap your brain around something that's 15 times stronger than an OxyContin?
Not even close, guys. I mean, it just, I told you guys my story, a little bit of it the past couple days. I was taking 20 hydrocodone at a time, and that still wouldn't even come to a fraction of what we're talking about here. It just wouldn't. And I seen comments in the comment section when I said that last night. People were like, wow, I mean, really, that much? Think about this, guys. I mean, when the fentanyl stuff first came out, what were they doing? They were taking a picture of a penny, and they were talking about car fentanyl, okay, guys? It's a little different stuff. And they took one little grain and they put it on the penny to give you an idea how much and how potent this stuff is. Because that's what it was. Those 2 little grains on that penny is enough to kill a human being. So, and we're talking about stuff that's what? Stronger? Are you kidding me? I mean, I can't wrap my brain, Tommy. I really can't. And I'm sorry I can't, guys. I mean, I hope that I never have to, just to be honest. And, and to speak to the kid thing real quick, man. I told you guys, I think earlier this week, during my counseling session last week, my doctor was telling us about a story there where she lives up in South Bend in Indiana. 5 kids, 4 of them died. How? This stuff was late. It wasn't the nitazine, but it was fentanyl. But this is what they're doing with the nitazines now. They laced marijuana with it, and the kids didn't even know it. This is the danger we're talking about. Tell your kids this stuff. Please. Please tell your kids this stuff. And just like that, the best thing that they said in that article I showed you guys earlier. Tell your kids this tonight. Don't wait. It would be a freaking tragedy for you guys to hear us talk about this, and then for you guys to get some catastrophic phone call tomorrow. I mean, honestly, make a phone call if that's what it takes. Hey, did you hear about this new thing? That's all you gotta say. You ain't got to go in some big detailed conversation. But tell your kids this, guys.
And there was an interesting comment that said, we're a society that's always waiting on the next pill, as opposed to trying other remedies. And you know what? I couldn't agree with you more. I really could not agree with you more. And we, from a very young age these days, the average, 6-year-old, if you just show them, right, just a split second of a commercial, they'll go, that's for Viagra, or that's for this. Because we advertise drugs on TV, one of only 2 countries that do. In spite of the fact that you need a prescription to get it, you can't write yourself a prescription. We advertise drugs. And I get all of that. I really do. But what that's done is it's lowered our threshold to say no to drugs, right? And that's a problem. But this crap isn't being made by a big pharma, right? This crap is being made by a country that hates us. That's what's happening. This is being made by a country that hates us. I got no love for big pharma, people. Believe that. I had a script for 12 OxyContin 80s a day. Back before this crisis, they used to give me dope in duffel bags when I went to pain management. Right? I hate big pharma as much as anyone in the world. I hate big pharma. I know all about how they used the Porter-Glick study, which didn't exist, to say that this stuff wasn't addicting, and they killed countless people and enslaved countless more. I get that. I hate big pharma. But as I've said so many times, you know what? Big pharma had a lot of help enslaving me. Right here. This dude. I own that. Big pharma did what they did, but I decided to go down that road. I could have done other things. I didn't. But you know what? All of that today is getting kind of academic. It really is. And I agree with you. I really do. But today, the only thing we can do is start talking to kids and telling them that, hey, if you see a guy pull a pill out of his pocket, I don't care where he says he got it from. If that pill doesn't come out of a bottle with your damn name on it, that you picked up at a pharmacy a long way from the southern border, right? Don't take it. Because honestly, it's Russian roulette, people, right? It really is. The number of people who are going to die tonight, right? We talked about this so many times, but if you're new to the show, 120 houses in the United States are going to empty tonight of everybody in it. Look out your window, right? Look at your neighborhood, 120 houses. Imagine if all those overdoses happened in your neighborhood. It would feel terrifying, like something out of a movie. That happens every single day of the week and has for so long. You want to talk about an epidemic or a pandemic? You know how many people we've lost since this opiate crap started? And it's just gaining momentum. We haven't even hit the stride of this epidemic. And the only way that anything is going to get done on this is going to be grassroots. It's going to be people like us saying, you hear people go, well, not my kid, meaning, well, my child would never do that stuff. You got to say the same thing, but grit your teeth before you say it. Not my kid, right? Say it like you Clint Eastwood and do whatever the hell it takes to make sure it ain't your kid. Because if you don't, I don't want to be doing a show where I come on here and say, so-and-so lost a daughter yesterday, or so-and-so lost a nephew yesterday, or a niece yesterday. We're going to do it, people. It sucks, but it's the truth. We're going to have that show. If you do the math based on the number of people we got on this boat, since this thing started, about 1 out of every 500 is dead, right? And we're the people in the know. We're the people that have been listening to us bang this drum since the very first time we started talking about it. Just think about what it's like out there where people are going, what's a nitazine, right? The majority of this country is saying, what's a nitazine?
When did they start? Just to let them know, Tom,
Right.
didn't they develop this analog for nitazines back in the 60s?
Yeah, it's been around forever. And they shelved it because it was a little bit too much. I mean, the bottom line is that they were trying to make something, and the target, right, for a different, they really were hoping for something that was less addictive. Didn't work. So it got shelved. It's the kind of stuff that ends up popping up during wartime because the ingredients are a lot easier and you can crank it out. And on a battlefield, this stuff is probably great. You know what I mean? If you just had a leg blown off, I would imagine this is a pretty decent substance. And if you're not particularly worried about whether or not someone's getting addicted, but they need pain relief now, this stuff would be great.
Yeah.
But it's addicting as all get out. And the way that they're mixing it up right now, if this isn't designed to kill you, then they're really stupid.
Exactly.
But no matter what their goal or their aim is, it's killing a lot of people. And you know something, folks? You know how things are a leading indicator, right? You've heard that term? Okay. These deaths, this is the leading indicator. What it means is it's here. And every time this happens, I'm not bagging on any part of the country. I'm just keeping it real. Anytime this happens, the two places, right? 3. You see Seattle, right? You see Ohio, you see Pennsylvania, right? There's just certain regions of the country that this stuff always seems, the overdoses always start. Then comes Chicago, then comes New York, but it always starts in Seattle, and then it's already happening, people. This is the leading indicator. It means that there's a crap load of it in this country. And now they're pressing it into pills. We're going to see this get ugly. These numbers are the tip of the iceberg.
Listen, guys.
Tip of the iceberg.
And I'm gonna say this, and then I guess it's getting kind of close to the top, isn't it? But
It is.
But anyway, I would say this, guys. And by the way, I appreciate y'all being here. It's a huge crowd tonight. Thanks for coming over and checking us out. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Give us a chance. Hopefully, we've earned that subscription by doing what we do here. And this is an online kind of like a group therapy thing that we got. As soon as you walk through the door, you're family. Just so you know. But anyway, the doctors don't even know what this is. I have told 4 different doctors now that have no idea what this stuff is. And each and every one of them has thanked me for just mentioning it to them. My counselor didn't know what this is. Stuff like that, guys. Okay? And it's not their fault. It's just it's never being talked about. that's why we're out here doing this, and we're trying to get it out in such a big way, because it's affecting our children. Like Tommy said, our kids is where it's going to be fixed. If we want to fix it, you know, we can help our generation, but we can't fix our generation completely. If you look down the chain and you just think about your kids and your grandkids, that's really where the stuff can happen. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not sure if you agree with that or not, but that's where I'm at with it. And it definitely is one of those things where we cannot sit back and be quiet about anymore. And I would point back to Seventh and what he does, Steve. You know, he's at least writing letters and, you know, making his voice known. And I would say this one last thing, like Tommy said, Seattle, 2 years ago, there's an article. I'll leave a link in a few minutes down in the description box. Check out that article. But really, all you have to do is type in nitazine Frankenstein into the YouTube search. There's videos out there, but they don't have very many views because it's not being talked about. It is now, though. I'm gonna make sure of it.
Well, I saw a comment talking about the barrio in Orange County, I think she said, and they're talking about something called fentanyl. I am not familiar with that, but if they say it is a synthetic heroin, there's a damn decent chance that it's either fentanyl, and with the name Fenny, that would be a pretty good guess. And if it's not, it's going to be nits. And here's the thing, people. Just like when the fentanyl first started coming to the U.S., right? They made Fugazi. They would take a Coke, right? Pour 2 liters of Coke into a thing and boil it down until it became a paste, and then they would cut it in because it looked remarkably like heroin. And that's how they first started packaging it. I promise you, they're going to be saying to people, don't trip, it's fentanyl, when it's actually nits. Because as much as drugs are addicting as hell and they don't need much of a marketing campaign, they need a little one. And they're not going to try saying to somebody, oh, this is that stuff that's killing everybody, at least not in the beginning, right? So it's right now our best friend is education. It's telling kids. And, you know, I've always said, you don't lie to kids. You don't make things worse than it is. And hopefully you guys listen to that so that your kid never felt like you were beating the drum for no apparent reason. Because now when you go, hey, pay attention. I never told you weed was going to kill you. I never told you weed was going to make you grow breasts or all this crap they told you, you know, back with DARE and all of the stuff that just was propaganda for whatever reason, right? We never did that. This stuff will kill you. Make no mistake. And please, people, again, let them know. Respiratory depressants. You mix a couple of them together, it's a death sentence. Alcohol, benzos, opiates, sleep medication, all of those are respiratory depressants. Mix any two together. I mean, what kills these people is they quit breathing. Education is your best friend. It really is, people. Please talk to everybody. I promise you, we're going to keep yelling about it. It's not going to be every show, but I'm going to do a lot more of these than we have been doing, because you know what? There's not enough people talking about it.
And I think what we'll do, and I think we can we've been talking about doing reaction videos anyway, where we're going to play these kinds of documentaries and things, and me and Tommy's going to react to it and let you guys give us feedback during that and see what kind of conversation can come of it. And I think this particular subject here, right here, might be a great thing to start with, because there are videos out there that talk about this. They're 7-8 minutes long, and that's actually perfect for what we would be doing. You know, so I think guys kind of look forward to that. You know, look out for that, and you know, it's coming. We're going to do that. At least try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. You guys are going to tell us one way or another if you like it or you don't, and that's usually the way we determine whatever we do here. So it's your boat. And you know, we just get cool seats.
I'd say, man, yeah, you rocked it tonight. Just so everybody understands that I appreciate what he did tonight. Yeah, honestly. And guys, if you can't hear the passion in his voice, and probably even in mine, yeah, turn your headset up, because I mean, I don't think we've ever talked about any other specific subject except for our own addiction like this. I mean, it really is that hitting me anyway. And you know, I had a conversation with my wife. I just can't understand it. You know, I understand what's going on, but I can't wrap my brain around wanting to be there. I just don't get it. But you know, is what it is. I get wanting to be high, but this stuff is killing people, and we have to tell our kids and everybody else.
And if you're new to the boat, and you didn't catch, the preamble, right? We're not doctors, people. We're two recovering drug addicts, and we shared a drug of choice. I got it through heroin. He got it through pills, but opiates are opiates. And I did this for about 3 decades. And it was such a difficult thing for me to get off that when I finally did, this seemed like, I had to do this. And Mark felt the same way. When the two of us got together, right? But now to know that there's something out there that is that much stronger than something that literally enslaved me for the majority of the time I've been on this planet scares the hell out of me. I mean, if there's passion in our voice, it's because this is frightening, right? There's no act. This scares the crap out of me.
Me too.
The number of, I don't know, honestly, of all of the people I used to party with, air quotes party with, I know 3 of them that are still alive, right? The rest of them are dead. And that wasn't nits, people. It was fentanyl. This stuff's 5 times stronger. This is killing off everybody. It really is. Yep. Everybody. Number 1 cause of death from 18 to 45. I promise you, people, I'm not going to beat this drum every day, but I'm going to beat the hell out of it when I do.
And
this is important.
Something else that's important that we did talk about, but we might not have emphasized it enough, is the fact that fentanyl and heroin, those kinds of opiates, when you overdose on that, Narcan does a really good job. Guess what, guys? The nitazine, they even said it in that article. It's having a hard time because it's so strong. Don't get me wrong, the Narcan still does work because it is an opiate. But listen, guys, it takes like so much more. So if you don't have enough on you, how can you save anybody? And nobody's going to carry a backpack full of the stuff. I mean,
well, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
These days you can go into most pharmacies and get Narcan. They will give it to you. The normal administration is, you see it in movies, they jab people in the chest, they do all that. You shoot it in the left shoulder, the right shoulder, the left butt cheek, and the right butt cheek. And I have seen heroin overdoses that took 4 shots of Narcan to bring somebody back. And that is epic, right? That is, normally one does it like this. It's like nothing you've ever seen. The person sits up, freaks out, instantly sick. But I have read articles where, they said they went out to work at nitazine scene and had 9 doses was all they brought with them. And 9 doses didn't get it done. Well, no pharmacy is going, you need a 12-pack of that, right? Yeah. So the number of people, and once again, this is one of those things where, and you got to tell your kids this, tell your nieces and nephews this. When somebody starts turning blue and Narcan doesn't work, really good kids will call 911, right? The majority of people run like hell.
Yep.
And I've seen it.
Yep.
They run like hell. And the vibrant, beautiful, breathing human beings with more potential than anything in the entire world end up in a dumpster because people don't want to go to prison. And that's really the reality of this. You got to talk to anybody you love, people. Anybody you love. If they're young enough that this is a threat, and I would say that's probably 60 or younger.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Certainly 45 or younger, because
it's probably even getting higher than that, Tommy, because like I said, they're lacing it in the marijuana. I mean, our elderly population is really into that.
Insane.
I mean, it's just so scary, man.
Yep. Bums me out, people. It really does. But here's the good news. If you don't do the stuff, it isn't going to kill you, right? So let's stick with the whole sobriety thing. We're going to be back tomorrow night, maybe a little cheerier, right? We'll try to pick a subject matter that's more fun to talk about. I don't know. We'll come up with one, I promise you. But between now and then, reach out and try to save somebody. For God's sakes, reach out and try to save somebody. Try to save a bunch of people, right? At this point, you've heard of it. I know a lot of times you hear this and you go, I don't know what it is. You've heard of it. Spend about 15 minutes today typing it in. Right, you're probably going to get us, but you're going to get some other people too to talk about this. You get everything you can learn, right? Knowledge is power. And we will be back tomorrow night, I promise you. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and on the other side of the glass,
Mark Wages.
And never doubt, people, That's a cat in the basket. Good night, everybody. We love you.